Hey everyone, I'm Armor Gaming, welcome back to my channel and welcome to Monster Analysis. Up for analysis today is Carlo Canbino. Carlo Canbino does all the dirty work in the Canine clan. He's in charge of paying visits to key monsters in rival clans. However, this massive dog has one weakness: sausages. When offered sausages, he's instantaneously distracted from his duty. And so Carlo Canbino is one of the newest and latest Dark Legendary monsters. I gotta say, I absolutely love the teenage form. If I was to get this monster, I think I would just keep him in his teenage form. And so anyhow, as of the time recording this video, there's a total of 47 Dark Legendary monsters. And on top of that, Carlo's also part of the Families book, which is currently home to 28 Legendary monsters. And he's also part of the Evil Legions book, which houses 72 Legendary monsters. So there's a lot of competition there. And with that said, let's talk about his stats. His power is 3498, which is a pretty impressive power. In the dark category, considering there's 47 legendary monsters, this actually puts him in 13th place, held with monsters like Samael the Plague Carrier, Harusami, and Marte McBlood. So he has a great power stat. And as for his life of 29,858, once again, it's a pretty good life stat. Out of 47 dark legendary monsters, this puts him in 16th place. But unfortunately for Carlo Canbino, his speed stat suffers. 3377, this puts him in 40th place, tied with Keythor. He's only faster than 6 other dark legendary monsters, so he's incredibly slow. But fortunately for him, his saving grace is that he does have Hardened. There's a 20% chance he can't be immobilized or he can't get hit with negative effects. And as for relics, he can hold the Trap Relic and he can also hold the Shield Relic. And so as you can imagine just by looking at his stats, this monster is not going to be a deny monster by any means, he's going to be an attacker. And so with that said, we can move on and talk about his skills. Starting off with his ultimate attack, Diet Rich in Iron. Deals massive dark damage to all enemies, applies daze to all enemies. 65 dark base damage to all the enemy monsters, and on top of that, it applies daze. And so far, I'm not really impressed. Yes, 65 damage is great and all, but there are other legendary monsters that have 70 damage or even more. And so far, not really off to a great start. Yes, he's an attacker. Yes, he has a high power. Yes, it's 65 dark base damage to everyone. But I don't know, I'm just not really impressed. On top of that, it also gives daze, which now I believe has a 98% accuracy as opposed to 100% accuracy. So the enemy monsters do manage to survive for whatever reason. There's a 2% chance they won't be dazed, 98% chance they will be dazed. I'm still not sure how I feel about that. But yeah, his ultimate not really that impressive. In Skills Group 1, he does have an AoE that deals 30 dark base damage with a 1-turn cooldown. You know what, I don't even know why I mentioned it. On to Skills Group 2, we have Bull Punch. Deals heavy dark damage to one enemy, applies stun to one enemy, requires cooldown. 45 damage, 26 stamina cost, 2-turn cooldown, and it's a stun skill. It's honestly a pretty straightforward skill, but also something that's not too impressive. However, you may want to consider running this skill, just because a lot of this monster skills you're going to see that he applies Stun Hater to himself, in which where the enemy monster is stunned, then he gets a triple damage against that stunned monster. Now at the same time, you probably don't even need that, because what you want to do is rely on your deny monster to stun the enemy monster. However, there's also an inherent problem with that strategy, just because of rune setups and everything, so I'll talk about that a little later. So anyhow, moving on over, we have Underboss. Applies damage boost, regeneration, stamina regeneration, and haste to itself, requires cooldown. And so here we have a self skill that costs no stamina, so it's a great skill to use if you ever need to recharge. Instead of recharging, you can just use Underboss, or if your whole entire team got their stamina drained, you could always use Underboss as a fortune cooldown. But this skill does 4 things. You get a 50% damage boost, you get a 20% stamina regeneration for the next 3 turns, you get 20% life regeneration for the next 3 turns, and you get haste. And the interesting thing about haste is that it's supposedly a 98% chance. So it appears to me that they're buffing haste. I don't know if it's only for this monster or if it applies for all monsters, because haste before used to be a 50% or a 40% chance, I think. So the fact that they bumped it up to a 98% chance, it means that more often than none, Carlo is going to be getting hasted, which means his speed is going to increase by 20%, which really helps him out, considering, keep in mind, in the dark category, he's the 40th fastest dark monster, or I guess I should say the 40th slowest dark monster. So yeah, he's slow, and I don't know, this haste might help him out. Moving on over, we have Metal Knuckles. Deals very heavy dark damage to an enemy, 55 damage, 25 stamina, no cooldown, so this is a counter to anyone that does cooldowns activated. Very vanilla skill, it really doesn't appear to be that strong. Yeah, this monster has an amazing power, but 55 damage, you're not going to be one-shotting anyone. But nonetheless, because of all of the monsters in the game having cooldowns activated, it may be worthwhile to have a 0 cooldown skill. And heck, I don't know, if you give this monster 2 strength runes instead of 1 strength rune, maybe he might be able to one-hit. Maybe, just maybe. It would really depend on the enemy monster level, your monster level, and what level the runes are. But anyhow, with that said, let's move on over to Skills Group 3, and we have War Finisher. Deals moderate dark damage to all enemies, applies Stun Hater to itself, requires cooldown. So this skill deals 40 dark base damage to all enemy monsters, costs 32 stamina, has a 2-turn cooldown, and it gives you Stun Hater, which essentially means that you deal triple damage against stunned monsters. Now I guess I can talk about this now. The inherent problem with that is that this monster is an attacker. So the typical way to rune an attacker, depending on your level, is 2 strength runes and a speed or a team speed. Or you can do 1 strength rune, a high level strength rune, I'm talking like a level 7, 8, 9, or 10, and then you give them a speed rune and a team speed rune. Or you can give this monster 1 strength rune and 2 speed, or 1 strength rune and 2 team speed. Again, it really depends on you, your level, the enemy levels, all of these different factors. Well, with that being said, let's just suppose you run this monster with 1 high level strength rune and 2 team speed to help your deny monster go first. So if you do manage to have your deny monster go first, and then your deny monster has an AoE stun skill, well, what's going to happen? You're going to AoE stun, then the enemy deny monster is going to go, and they're going to get their turn skipped because they're stunned. Then maybe your secondary monster goes, then the enemy secondary monster goes, maybe even the third monster goes. Well, then if that is the case, by the time it's Carlos's turn, well, he still has to give himself stun hater, so he has to do a regular attack. And now the deny monster can't AoE stun again, because once a monster is stunned, they become immune to stun for the next turn. So what you kind of have to do is find a monster that has 2 immobilizing skills, similar like Cabinfish. Cabinfish can AoE freeze the first turn and then AoE stun the next turn. But again, that same problem happens because if you AoE freeze, okay, they're all frozen, and then Carlo goes, he sets up with stun hater, but then Cabinfish will AoE stun, and then they'll get stunned, but then their turns will be skipped, and by the time it's Carlos's turn, they're not going to be stunned anymore. So what the heck, it doesn't really work. The only way for it to work against most enemy monsters is if you run this monster with like 2 speed and a strength. That way he goes before at least 2 of the enemy monsters, but if that does happen, you run the risk of the enemy deny monster being faster than your deny monster. So if it's a team wars, for example, where you know your deny monster can go before the enemy deny monster without you having to give your monsters extra team speed, then by all means you can definitely pull off the combo. I'm just saying that in like a practical scenario, it's kind of hard to pull off this combo with Carlo just because he needs a turn to set up, and then the enemy monsters actually need to be stunned for him to do his attack. Now of course what you can do, and what I imagine most people will probably do, is to have a main deny monster that doesn't do stun, maybe does freeze, maybe does possession, maybe does something else, and then your secondary monster, that's going to be the monster to AoE stun. So hopefully the turn order is something like your main deny monster, the enemy's deny monster, and then their other 2 monsters, then your secondary monster that can AoE stun, and then Carlo. That's the only way I can see it setting up and actually working. But I don't know, I love this monster design, but I just feel like it's a lot of planning just to set up stun hater. But nonetheless, even you take out stun hater, it's still 40 direct base damage, and he still has a high power, so I say this skill is definitely worth running. And so the next skill he has is called Shakedown, and this skill removes 30% of total life from one enemy and it requires cooldown. So this skill troubles me. It deals no initial damage, it costs 30 stamina, has a fortune cooldown. And the reason this skill troubles me is because first of all, if you do run Carlo, you're going to give him a high level strength rune or 2 strength runes. So if you do run him with strength runes and you run him with this skill does not benefit from strength runes. So I kind of feel like you're missing out on them, you're kind of just wasting them. At the same time, however, if you're going up against really tanky monsters, it might be more useful to run Shakedown just to cut 30% of their life. But then, how significant really is 30% of their life? I kind of feel like he might be able to do more with a single attack, especially the next attack, which is like 70 damage. Actually, let me show you right now, yeah. Whacker Pop, 70 damage. So I don't really feel like he needs Shakedown. I suppose you could potentially run it for those situational times, but I don't know, myself personally, I'm just not really feeling it. But anyhow, for his last and final attack, it's Whacker Pop. Deals massive direct damage to one enemy, requires cooldown. 70 damage, 22 stamina cost, 2 turn cooldown. Now this skill for sure is going to one-hit an enemy monster. More so an earth monster, it's going to be even more powerful against an earth monster. It's going to be the equivalent to 105 damage. So be sure to run this skill. Regardless of how you run this monster, 2 mid-level strength runes, a high-level strength rune, this has the potential to one-hit. And so as for the skills in this monster, I would personally recommend Whacker Pop, War Finisher, Bull Punch, and Underboss. But if you do want to substitute one of these skills, War Finisher, Ball Punch, or Underboss for Metal Knuckles, by all means go ahead and do it. It's a really vanilla skill, but it does have no cooldown, so you know you're always going to have a skill that you can utilize. And yeah, that's pretty much going to conclude my analysis on Carlo Canbino. Overall, I gotta say this monster isn't too impressive, he's rather meh, but I love the design, and design alone is the reason I want to get this monster, and just feed him to the point where he's a teenager, and honestly just put some gold runes on him and just leave him alone. That's what I want to do with this monster. But keep in mind, this is also coming from the perspective of someone that has a ton of monsters, that has a lot of ranked up monsters, that's been playing the game for a long time. But if you're a new player that's getting this monster for the first time, by all means go ahead and level him up to 100 and have fun with him, because he can definitely pack a punch. I mean, just look at that, look at those knuckles, he can definitely pack a punch. So with that being said, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. And now I want to hear from all of you guys. What do you guys think about this monster? How do you think he compares to the other dark monsters, to the dark attackers? Do you think there's a different purpose for this monster? Do you think maybe you can give this monster the rainbow build rune setup, the life rune, the strength rune, the speed rune? Because he does have that amazing self skill that also gives him haste. So I don't know, whatever you guys are thinking, let me know in the comments below. Also be sure to join Discord. There's going to be a link in the description to my brand new Discord, and I want you all to be a part of that community. So that's going to be it for now. Once again, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys on the next one.